Have you joined Glow Girl on Patreon? Well, if you haven't, unlock your potential with the Glow Getter membership. When you join the Glow Girl community, you'll gain exclusive access to career tips, guidance, resources, and more, all designed to help you create a career and life you love. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up, our membership empowers you to reach new heights. So check us out and join now for $5 a month. Click the link in the show notes to start your glow up today. Welcome to the Glow Girl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis. Thank you all for joining. Well, happy Thursday. I hope you all are having a great day so far, and I hope your week is going well. Well, today I'm really excited to have a guest with me, Rachel Alls. She is a psychologist, author, and art playgroundist. Rachel and I are going to discuss how to live and walk in your authenticity, and know that it can be tough sometimes to feel like you can show up as your true self, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some steps and just some advice and guidance. She's going to share her story and tell you how she became comfortable walking and living in her true authentic self. And hopefully that's going to help you to do the same. If you're someone who might be saying, I want to take that leap. I want to really be myself at work. I want to be myself with my friends. Hey, I even just really want to be myself at home. If you're feeling that way and you're not quite sure how to do that, she's going to be here to help us and give us some advice in that. She's also an author who has written several books, and her last book, which she released last year, is called The Relationship Book, a soulful, transformational, and artistic inventory of your connective life. So, lots to talk about here today, which I can't wait. I hope you can't wait. So I won't be gone that long. So stay tuned. I'll be right back with Rachel. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. All right, I am really excited to welcome Rachel into the show. Welcome to the Glow Up Girl podcast.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started with you telling everyone out there listening or watching who you are and what you do.
So I work as a psychologist and an art playgroundist and an author of 4 books that are all about self-help and lifting you up, and they're all colorful. And those are the main things I do. I'm also a clothing ambassador, so I also really love to play with clothes. I love to play with life.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. So I love that. Right. And so you said something that's very key. I love to play with life. I think anyone who says a statement of that nature is someone who's very comfortable in their skin and who they are authentically. So I know that continues to be an issue, sometimes in a struggle for people to truly live like in their authentic self. Can you talk about some ways that you became comfortable just completely living in your authentic self?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question and observation. I think about my life. I'm now 57 years old, and I think that it's happened in 2 big rounds. Or we could think of it almost like, maybe this is just coming to me at the moment, like blowing a big bubble with bubble gum. It's like it's the authentic bubble has grown out of 2 distinct periods of my life. One came naturally as a child, right? I mean, not overthinking anything, not having defenses, like I'm talking about young child, but like where you just reach into your drawer and pull out maybe a couple different pairs of socks you want just because they bring you joy at that moment. You're not super thinking about it. You're just like, I feel like that. Or, like just pulling out the toys you want to play with, not thinking about what will others think, or I just did that yesterday, or all the other kind of clutter that can go on in our minds. But we just move authentically as kids, hopefully. And so I knew to be all of this, to be all of me when I was very little. And I think that the invitation is always to come back home to those knowings and trustings and instincts and um, primal being. And so, and lit being, and like beacon of love, it's like who we came into this world as. And so I remember, so as I mentioned, one of the things I do is as a psychologist. So that was one of the bubbles. The second one is beyond schooling, I began my practice as a psychologist. And I remember at that time in my late 20s, getting dressed as I thought a woman would get dressed as a professional, right? I put on my pantyhose and I got out my, at that time, it was a paper calendar. I got out my black, just, I thought professional looking calendar. It just, said the year on the cover. I mean, it was just very neutral looking. And just sort of did that, like, here's what I'm supposed to be. And then I remember getting my sea legs under me for a few years doing that work. And I think as I got a little more comfortable, I started to little by little shake out of that mold. Because the mold wasn't really me. The work I was doing was very me, but the box I was putting myself in wasn't. And so I remember a couple things starting to happen. Anything from, I was in a Barnes and Noble and was looking at the weekly calendars and got a Mary Engelbreit one instead, which is all these colorful, right, sort of whimsical little affirming words in there and sweet little drawings. And I thought, is this going to be professional? I don't know, because I just feel drawn to it, and I'm just going to start using that with my clients. And then I remember starting to pick different glasses out that had a little more personality and made me giggle in the mirror when I tried them on in the department store. Or it became a bit of there was a momentum that got started. And it's interesting in the physical world when we can select things, even little things, as I'd mentioned, socks, like what socks am I going to put on today? I think that all of these things are really maybe even fun, but sort of little micro movements or little ways we can practice in a concrete way. Like, what brings me joy? What feels like me? What speaks to me? What makes my heart go a little more aflutter? And I think that joy and being our authentic selves are very related. That one is a clue for the other one. So I think just practicing with those little things, or even just like, well, I like that little knickknack for my kitchen, or even start playing with words. Like, I'm going to be with a friend today and I'm going to experiment saying a few words here and there that feel really real. And feel really like I'm letting myself walk into this conversation and be in this room. Whether it's share something I've been up to lately that means something to me, or I don't know. I mean, there could be so many things. So I think these are things we can play with and experiment with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think if you take it to that professional lens that you spoke of what people think, oh, I have to look this certain way to go, going into my professional place. But I would also say that I think the pandemic and being home helped a lot of people to lean more into their authentic selves, because then it became a place of where people were just wearing whatever,
Yes.
people were wearing whatever. People's hair was like however you wanted it to be. And
I love that.
And I love that, because like I'm somebody who, like, even right now, I mean, I have on what do people say? It's like a professional talking a party at the bottom. I mean,
Yeah.
right now, I mean, I still have on my pajama pants and I've got
Yes.
this like, like a more professional top on, but like during the week, I still work from home now. I'm fortunate to work from home still. And I mean, I go upstairs sometimes and just grab whatever. I'll have like stripes up top and like plaid at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then I kind of carry that out throughout. Like my husband said one day, he's like, what are you wearing? I was like, what I felt like wearing. I mean,
Yes,
I just saw these
exactly.
things and I wanted to wear these colors today and I put them on. And he's like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I think I definitely agree with you. Like it is joy. It is finding like joy, intersection of that joy and a pocket of joy for yourself that feels real for you. And everything you said about the calendars, like that, when you said that, I was like, this is spot on. I've never had one of those, like, I call them like boring calendars. I've always had like colorful, fun, like everything, like I capture notes on. It's like fun paper, it's like colorful. And I'm like, I mean, if I've got to take notes for like work, I mean, it should be fun, like at least.
Exactly. I mean, there is a self-care component in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like there's taking care of yourself. Like if I have to do this work, I'm going to give myself like the sweetest colors and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So now it makes me think like self-care, authenticity, and
Mhm.
joy are all
Mhm.
sisters.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's like you have the license to be creative and to
Mhm.
spark it however you need to.
That's right.
So talking about that, right? We might be talking about now, there might be someone listening saying, I don't know, because for
Uh-huh.
some, for many, it will take bravery, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot easier. It's a lot easier for me, right, to do it because I'm home. I don't
Mm,
have to be in a space with people, even though I'm just saying that, but like I have become very comfortable with like, you get the real me. Like that's what you get all the time.
mhm,
But
mhm.
for someone who may be feeling like, how do I build up, more, how am I going to be brave enough to step into a space that is a space that I've come to, been to, where people know me maybe as this way, but it wasn't my authentic me. How can someone sort of like have that courage to take that
Yes,
first step?
yes. I'm thinking of a couple of things. It's a great question. Like the courage to glow up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the first that I had is also some people feel emotionally safer blending in, camouflaging, because
Mm,
frankly, in their life, it hasn't always been safe to stand out. And that's real,
yes.
you know? And so if that's still the case, I want to say trust yourself and don't
Mhm,
necessarily right now, if it's not safe to stand out, then don't do that.
mhm,
Then your task is what do you need to do to establish safety and support and steps toward breaking free to
mhm,
be those things. So I just want to say sometimes there's those kinds of layers in there and like, oh my gosh, I'm just sending extra love out to anyone where there's any ring of truth to that.
mhm,
And then the next thing I'm thinking is if I shouldn't say just because this is difficult and sometimes painful. If it's about self-confidence, like, like, oh my gosh, I just don't feel comfy walking
mhm,
in and really people really seeing me. And maybe part of that being, as you said, that's not what they're used to. Like, who are you?
mhm,
I
mhm,
think that you could utilize humor, like you could
mhm,
even like call it out as you walk in, like, all right,
mhm,
people, I know this isn't my typical thing. You know what I mean? Like you could kind of say
mhm,
it in a cute, funny, like kind of acknowledge it if you want to. Um, so that would be one strategy. Another strategy would be like, I almost want to say small act of rebellion, like have something super colorful in your pocket. No one knows, but right? Like that
mhm,
could be like a little step to take,
mhm, mhm,
or just do the socks. just do some socks that are a little bit out there for you. Or just start little by little, and you might start to get more used to it. I guess the last thing I want to say is that, to me, because we're talking also about being authentic, what authenticity looks like on one person is going to look different on the next. And so, for example, I have a good friend, her name's Gyrl, and she loves, for real, she loves to wear blacks and grays and, just like much more neutrals, right? Beige, and it's so cute when we're in a clothing store together and we're looking at racks and we're like pulling out totally different things, and I delight in it because those things are truly resonant to her. And so showing up in a room with what brings you joy, and I want to emphasize comfort. Like, I want my clothes to be comfortable on me.
Exactly. Yes.
Physically. And what feels true to me, it's going to look different. So I just also want to honor all of those expressions.
Yeah, I agree. Like, no two people are the same. You are unique. You are unique in your own way. And I think you said something earlier that we should remind people of. It's to trust yourself, trust your gut. Like, you won't steer you wrong. Just trust yourself. And if it is, like you said, starting small with like with a pair of socks, or maybe it is your calendar that's that you bring to the work or wherever you go, and it's a bit more like colorful, like it's small steps, and then eventually I think you sort of walk into like comfort. You become comfortable with just the you. I can remember when I was working in corporate and I was younger, and I would always struggle with like my hair, and I was like, oh, like, should I have my hair just look like sort of like everybody else's hair, or is it okay for me to wear like natural, like more braids, like, and one day I just said to myself, I was like, you know what, like, I don't care. I'm gonna braid my hair, I'm gonna wear it, and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna own it. And and so did that, and now it's like I do that. My hair changes all the time. Like, it's at least monthly. I've got different hairstyle, but that's because I love that. I love doing that for me. It's it's part of like who I am as a person, to change up the and also like, and I remember like when I started wearing like this purple lipstick, and I have ones that are like brighter, and I would come and people are like, oh my gosh, like I always oh, I love your purple lipstick. And at first I was a little hesitant because I thought, oh, this might be too much for the corporate workplace. I mean, and but I mean, I just went in there and I like owned it, and I wore my fun dresses and my fun colors, and and it just became like, people started to say, I just really appreciate and admire like how you just like show up like as yourself. And I was like, that's the only self I can be, is the one that I am.
That's right. And I honestly think that you showing up like that, I'll just say it boldly, I think you also heal people. It's so good for you, but I think there's an offering that goes with it when you're owning it, that invites people to do the same for themselves. There's a reason they're drawn to that. And so that is so beautiful. And the whole owning it thing, I mean, just brings to mind to me that it really is primarily an inside job, that it's not what will others think. It's me approving of me. It's me giving myself permission. And it occurred to me as you were speaking as well, like, what would it be if we wrote ourselves almost a love letter of permission? Like, go ahead, Rachel, and wear the, like one of my childhood heroes was Pippi Longstocking. Like, go ahead, Rachel, and wear your braids out into the wind, and go ahead and like whatever kind of comes to me. So like almost journal yourself into being, love letter yourself into being.
Mhm. And I like that because what you said is really, and what we talked about a little bit earlier was that it's a form of self-care. I
Hmm.
mean, it's a form of taking care of like yourself, your mental wellness, because you are no longer bound by things and you are free. It's like a sense of freedom.
Yes.
So for you
Yes.
to like, I love that you showed up with your hair braided because
Uh,
there are days through the week where I put those two braids in and I show up to work that way and lead meetings and everything.
yes.
and, and
Best
it's
leaders.
just and it's just like freeing to, I think it's a less, there's enough in the world to worry about. And I
Oh,
feel like it's so much more freeing to be able to show up as your true self and your authentic
mm,
self, because that's one
mm.
less thing you have to be like stressed out about.
Exactly. I mean, I love that you said that because, frankly, on a deep level, it's more stressful to try to not be yourself.
Mhm.
That causes health problems, causes mental health, physical health, spiritual health
Mhm.
problems. Like, so it- as much as you might think, well, it's going to be stressful to actually, and vulnerable, which it is vulnerable, to show up as myself, it's way harder on you to not.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's a temporary passage of discomfort. If you're not used to doing that, it's temporary to lean into the discomfort of showing up as yourself, because eventually that anxiety will melt away, of saying, like, for example, when I started in my 40s dressing way more colorfully,
Mhm.
like head to toe, way, um, I remember at first, like walking through Target or whatever, being a little self-conscious, but like
Mhm.
knowing this really is me. And now I don't even think about it. I
Mhm.
and I so what happens with anxiety is the more we're exposed to the thing we're feeling anxious about, the
Mhm.
less we feel anxious. So, it's the classic like public speaking. If you eventually do it a lot, the anxiety
Mhm.
melts away. If someone's afraid
Mhm.
of riding an elevator, the cure is actually to get in an elevator and ride it till you're not afraid anymore.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
So, I mean, dressing up as more yourself or having the calendar or whatever, the more you do it, it's going to become eventually like the anxiety is not even going to be there. So lean
Mhm.
into the discomfort. This is when you can bank on will melt away.
Mhm. Yeah. And also something, as you were saying that, that came to me is on the other side of that, when you live authentically, you have to
Mhm.
also be okay with the fact that guess what? You may not be for everyone.
Yes, and you're not. Yes,
Yeah. And
yes.
I say that to a lot of people. People always laugh when I say that. When I'm like, no, I just feel like I just have like me as a person. Like it's either like you, I think you really, really like me, or you're like, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot, I mean, I can be different, things. Sometimes I can be a lot. Sometimes I can be like, just let me be. And
Mhm.
I think like people have to be okay with the fact that when you choose to live and walk in your true self, that some of the people that maybe you were chummy with or close to when you weren't living as much in your authentic self. I mean, those people, that may be a season, they may not
Yes.
transition into the next phase of your life or that next season, or they may not be a part of who you are. Like, you may find that the values may not be the same once you
Mhm.
decide to like be your authentic self. And I
Yes.
just think that I want to tell people that. So if you're listening and you're saying, yes, I want to do this, I need to be doing more of this, but just also on the other side of that, just prepare yourself, which
Mhm.
of course to me, like if it, I don't take it any way negatively, because I think people were in your life for a reason and they
Mhm.
all had impacts where they needed to be.
Totally.
But if you move on from them, it doesn't make it like the end of the world.
I agree. In fact, what I think, just to piggyback, is that you will start to attract and keep the people who have the next level of frequency. Like, you're going to level up. You're going to, your relationships actually will level up. And the people who don't quite fit, who aren't really attracted or drawn to you anymore, will just, that's fine. Bless them, and they will continue on their paths. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not for everybody. And as we evolve, grow, and continue in our becoming and keep traveling closer and closer into our home, I think we'll find more and more likewise souls.
Yes. I like it. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it all, I think as you mentioned earlier, you said it's all like to self-care. Like it is like, because you're taking care of yourself, but like, what are other practices that you use for self-care?
Self-care. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, I love that question too. I love our whole conversation. All these things matter so deeply and profoundly. Self-care, it's interesting because this year I had some real trouble with my thyroid, a butterfly-shaped gland kind of in our throat region, and really wiped me out. It was like getting socked with mono. And so I really had to dig in even more to my practices of self-care. That's why I'm bringing this up. And so some of mine are twice a day, mid-morning and mid-afternoon. I close my eyes for 15 minutes and rest. For me, it's often with meditation. It could just be a little nap, but just restoring and getting back in touch with my breath and just regulating my system. Once a week, I'm taking now a Qigong class, which not everyone's heard of that. It's also, some people are familiar with Tai Chi, but it's a little bit of a simpler version. And it's gentle movement and breath work, and it's just poetry in motion. It's like, as you're stretching down, the teacher's saying, scoop up the fragrance of the earth, and then you raise that up, and bring it through your body into the stars, and I just love poetry and words. And so I'm just like swooning through the whole hour, and through this time too, I connected with 3 women, and we have started a monthly, we called it Circle of Love group, where we just gather for a couple hours and purposefully deeply listen to one another. And, just a deep listening practice and being, present. And, if we did a slumber party, I'm telling you, I could just keep talking about self-care because I am so passionate about it. I mean, my self-care is anything from the clothing and colors and softness in the clothing that I put on my dear body, to being selective that the people in my life who I allow in near are honoring and loving, and that I offer that back. And oh my goodness, the nutrition I put in my body, that, again, drinking enough water, just seemingly boring things like that we always have to, we forget and have to remind ourselves, that's just a little sampling.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So let's talk about your books. So you've written several books, but you did release a book last year called The Relationship Book, which I love the cover of this book. And I saw some of the interior pages, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all the color. Yes.
The color.
Yes, it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about the book and what inspired you to write it?
Oh, great. Thank you for asking. The book is really about loving ourselves in all of our relationships. So the chapters are things like relationship with myself, relationship with food, with clothing, with people, with animals, with community, with divinity. and really giving yourself a chance as you go through the chapters to care for yourself. Like,
Mhm.
how am I doing in this relationship? And how am I caring for myself in this
Mhm.
relationship? And my pages are both light and deep at the same time. So they're
Mhm.
very colorful. It's the whole thing is illustrated in full color. And so each page spread actually includes an anonymous client quote from my therapy practice that took my breath
Mhm.
away in some way. And then that's coupled with my kind of prose-like written reflection that's all meant
Mhm.
to affirm the reader and get
Uh-huh.
them lovingly thinking about themselves. So and then I wrote the book. I felt inspired to write it the first year that the pandemic really took hold with us.
Mhm.
And I was so moved by how hard we all worked to find our way back to one another because we had to isolate so much.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it just struck me like how profound our relationships are and how much they need our care.
Mhm.
Again, including with ourselves. So that's what really inspired me to write it.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
Where can people find your books and purchase them?
Okay, they can find them at my website, racheloz.com. And my last name is Oz, Awes. Um, so when you get to my website at racheloz.com, in the upper home, bar, you
Mhm.
can click on blog or shop or counseling or whatever, and it will direct you to those places.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah,
fantastic. I
yeah.
love that. So, all right, so now we're gonna move into three things with Rachel. Gonna ask you three questions. Well, one's a two-parter, but
Okay.
just to help our audience get to know you a little bit better. Number one is a two-part. How do you start and end your day?
How do I okay. Um, I will say that for starting, I I make a coffee alternative. So I'm just going to share this with people. Like if this is a fun tip, then I'll
Mhm.
tell you. Because for me, I love coffee, but it doesn't love me. It just doesn't make my body feel good. So I
Mhm.
found what's called Maya nut, Maya nut,
Mhm.
and it's ground up just like coffee, and you make it like coffee, but
Mhm.
it's made out of Maya nuts, and it's healthy. And it's
Mhm.
bitter like coffee. So for me, I add milk,
Uh-huh.
frothed milk. And for others, they may add, something else that if you're dairy intolerant, whether
Right.
that's coconut milk or something else. Um, and it's so yummy. So I'll just say in a simple way, I start with that. I end my day, I try sleep for a while has been challenging for me, but that's its own
Mhm.
whole conversation, right?
Yeah.
Self-care for sleep or what it is for us and at middle age sleep or whatever. Um, and so I try the last hour of the day to do things that are calming. So like I play a station of either the spa station that just has very sort of
Mhm.
lulling, peaceful music. Or I play Tibetan singing bowls,
Mm.
that are just like really resonant, simple sounds that are just like, again, really lulling, like dung,
Mhm.
dung, like that. And, read or just do something that's just very relaxing.
Awesome. I like
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
All right. Number two, what is something you wish you'd known earlier? No matter what, whatever
Hmm.
topic, subject, whatever.
Hmm. Something I wish I had known earlier. Um, I think if I had known earlier that people thirst for and love to be seen and really deeply asked about. So, let's say in junior high,
Mhm. Mhm.
classic struggle age for, how are your relationships and things. It's like, take the time to be curious with one another.
Mhm.
Take the time to just love on people and be like, tell me about your life and how is it that this or that? I don't know. Just be super curious and
Mhm.
really ask way, way more about people and go
Mhm.
out of your way to be affirming and encouraging. I mean, this is something that's been with me, but I think that if I knew that then to go more, even more out of my way,
Mhm.
sort of like instead of looking to belong, instead of hoping, like, will I be included with those people, which is like a lifetime of desire. We're social beings.
Mhm.
Like, go after and create it
Yeah.
and know what people are craving.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
so I think that. I think
Okay, I
that.
love that.
Mhm.
And last, what is there a book, show, podcast, or anything that you just love listening to, reading, or watching right now?
I will highlight Succulent Wild Woman, the 25th anniversary edition by Sark, S-A-R-K. Like my books, a lot of the pages, I mean, mine are full color, but a lot of her pages are in color and
Mhm.
handwritten font and super deep and affirming.
Awesome. I
Yes.
like it. I like it.
Yes.
All right. So before I let you go, I
Mhm.
have one more question for you, and that is for you to can you leave us with 3 things you'd like the audience to take away from our conversation today?
Okay. I would say um, that self-care and authenticity and what brings you joy are completely related. So where you find or pursue or get intentional about one, you will find the others,
Mhm.
or if you're feeding one, it's feeding the others as well,
Mhm.
that they're sisters. Um, I would say, I would encourage you to take time um, as I had mentioned in the relationship book, that it's about taking time to really be with the relationship with yourself and with others, to be intentional about it. How do you care for that? Whether it's literally getting that book that helps guide you, or whether it's seeing a therapist who is like deluxe support in looking at
Mhm.
that, or, so I would say those things. And I would also highlight the third thing being that to just somehow know deep in your heart and to really breathe this in, relax your gut, close your eyes, and really breathe in that as you wear socks that bring you joy and dress up more as yourself in your outer being as well as coming home to your inner being, to trust that people will be drawn to you who are at a higher frequency, who are more resonant to you anyway, and to just trust that process.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you so much. Those were excellent. And thank you for coming and joining me today. I really enjoyed our
Oh,
conversation.
me too. Thank you for having me, truly.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you can always come back here in the future for more conversation. And I wish you all the best, all the best, all the best as you
You
continue on your
too.
journey.
You
Awesome.
too. And everyone listening.
Thank you so much. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thanks again to Rachel for joining the show today. If you'd like to learn more about her or her books, check out the links in our show notes. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, you can visit us at glowupgirl.com. You can check out past podcast episodes. You can sign up to be a guest on the show, grab our social links, and so much more. Also, make sure you're checking out the Career Series, which are career-focused podcast episodes where I share my personal journey and give advice based on questions and messages I receive from you all about career resources, how to get to the next level, and so much more. And also, if you haven't joined us over at Patreon, feel free to do so. You can get exclusive access to career tips, guidance, resources, and so much more. And you can find that link in the show notes as well. So if you're listening on a platform where you can leave a review, please feel free to do so. And also share this podcast with your friends, your families, your coworkers, whoever you feel like would benefit from these great guests and these stories. Feel free to share. Sharing is caring, as they say. Lastly, I want to thank you all for joining me today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend a little time with me as you do weekly, and I greatly appreciate it. So until next time, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.